So the first golden age vision I had was less than a year after I came to Baba, and I was sitting in a butty. There was a sister on the gutty giving drishti, and I found myself all of a sudden standing inside of a palace, a golden palace, and I was admiring the columns and the arches and all the jewelries and the decorations of the sort of architecture, if you like. And when I looked down, I saw a girl placing a tray of flowers on a table. And as she placed the tray down, she looked over at me and smiled. And I could very, very clearly, I remember this very, very clearly, see the soul. I mean, it was such a clear thing to witness or to be able to see it very, very naturally. Just as we see everything physical with these eyes, so too, I mean, the soul was just as visible. And that struck me while I was looking at that soul, and all of a sudden I recognized that soul from the confluence age. And I said in my mind that I said, "Oh, I know you from this time." And of course, as soon as I said that, the vision finished. So it gave me time to think about what I'd just seen and the importance of soul conscious vision as a practice at the confluence age, so that it becomes just as natural as we were body conscious before Gyan for 63 births. Then this soul consciousness, this soul conscious vision becomes just as natural as that. And of course, that when we're interacting with everyone, we're interacting with others, we are talking to the soul. We're not talking to the body because the body is inanimate, but the soul is there, and the soul is everything. So that is the practice that I took from that vision. So each of these visions that I had of the Golden Age all had a small message in them, but a very, very important message. So that was the first vision I had of the Golden Age. The second vision I had, we were sitting in the butty, and I found myself gone from the room, and I was actually just standing in a garden. And I knew, of course, straight away it was the Golden Age. Somehow you automatically know that. And in this garden, there was actually a princess, and don't tell me how I know it was a princess. I just knew it was a princess. And she was leaning down, holding out her hand, and she was feeding, I think she was feeding or just playing with all the small animals that had gathered around her. So it was really, really interesting to look at, and you see all the small animals, and she like the other vision, she looked over at me and looked at me, and I was actually taken aback and surprised by her purity, the soul's purity. I mean, it was very, very powerful. I mean, it was very, very like almost like an aura you see surrounding a lot of the depictions of like Christ, of course, the deities in India. That aura, I mean, you can't see it, but you know it's there. And but just the level of her purity and the virtue of the soul was was really, really amazing. And that sort of like really took me back a little. And again, she smiled at me, but I didn't recognize who it was from this time, not like the first vision. But it was just the quality and the level of the purity and the virtue was just amazing. And a very, very short vision. And of course, after that, straight away, I was back in the butty. And again, it got me thinking about, the virtue of the soul, how high the soul becomes when it's completely pure, the vibration and the attraction of the virtue that is in the soul, when you come in front, which is when I was thinking about it later, which is why I guess, during the path of bhakti, we all bow down to the deities because of the level of the virtue and the purity that they had, or that we had, because we were those deities. This is the third vision of the golden age that I had, but this vision was mixed. This was also a vision of the subtle world as well, and but it ended looking at a golden palace, actually standing on a hilltop. I found myself standing actually in the subtle world in Brahmapuri. So everything was all white, and Mama and Baba were standing there, and lots of the children. So lots of brothers and sisters, so all of Baba's children there. I couldn't tell you who was there. All I know was Mama and Baba were there, and they were talking to the children. They were talking about the virtues of the Brahmin family and keeping the company and what the Brahmin family meant, sort of as a family, as an organization, as like a unit of, Baba's creation. So it was very interesting. I can't remember details of what they were saying, but the gist of what they were saying, the essence, I sort of went in of what they were saying. So after that, we all took, it was like a lift. We all took this platform lift, or I don't know how you would call it, but we all moved up, and we moved out of the subtle world, the Brahmapuri, and we went through, and you could see the transition, and we went through and up, and we was all standing on this hill, and we were overlooking this palace that was below us at the bottom of the hill. And I remember Mama and Baba then started talking about the virtues of the golden age, and how, the virtues of the Brahmin family actually, and everyone in the Brahmin family, carry over into the deity world. And I remember looking at this palace, and this palace actually stretched on for a very, very long time. I mean, it was a huge palace that went on for, I'm not sure, at least a couple of kilometers, maybe a kilometer. I mean, when you think about it, it's not that far of a stretch of the imagination, because the Red Fort in Delhi is almost exactly a kilometer long. So, and that's a fort that was built in the Iron Age. So you can see, but of course it's not just the building. There are parks and gardens and fountains and all sorts of things that make up the grounds of the palace. So I don't know whose palace it was. Could have been Narayan's palace, Krishna's palace, but it was very, very impressive. And so while we were looking at this palace, then the vision just finished. And again, I was back in the Bhatti. So the message of that one was very, very clear, because it started off with Mama and Baba explaining the virtues of the Brahmin family and how we carry those up. Well, in the vision, we carry them up into the golden age. Of course, we carry those across, and how to always only see the virtues of the Brahmin family. And like Baba says, never pick defects, because even though, there might be like 5-10% of the defects, if that's all you see, then you're not seeing 90% of the good in someone, or the virtues or the skills or qualities that someone has. You're only seeing a very, very narrow window of the negative. So that was a very nice lesson. So it also related to one of the personal meetings with Baba I had Baba talked about how happy I am to be back in the Brahmin family.